Tete from Chipinge, a social sciences Part 2 student at the Midland State University, one of the many sex for marks victims at the institution, is distraught after being forced to defer a full academic year. Mutete is bitter and feels betrayed after being forced into a sexual relationship with one of her lecturers in return for good marks and registration. This never happened, making her just one of the statistics of young girls who fall prey to sexual corruption at Zimbabwe's tertiary institutions and are suffering in silence. Investigations show that MSU has become a haven for sexual predators, preying on students who have nowhere to turn to for safety.
Okay, so social sciences department, right? Kune announce this the lecturer. It so happened with one student yanga is now registered for my exams. Anga started registered and anga sina coursework, of which ENDA departmental overseer. So she had to have sex with him kuti awane coursework iyoyo because anga sina ku register early because anga sina fees. So you see sometimes can also na mari panoze wanenda pachana maybe to be too late or kutofa ngoto defer. For her to carry on, she had to have sex with the coursework yake, of which it wasn't even fair enough because I know some pass below the average, apart over 10-9. So I had to defer because of that.
So when I was in 1-1, we had an incident whereby our group was said that it didn't submit an assignment. So we were called in by our lecturer, Mr. He started calling the students in one by one. When it was my turn, he was like, what can you offer for me to give you a free mark because your group didn't submit my assignment? Of which I was the one who actually submitted the assignment. Then I tried to reason with him, say we submitted and stuff. He asked me to check if our group paper was there. Our group paper was there, but it had an X written on it. Then he said that maybe you submitted in late. So what do you have to offer? So you'll be like, no one's gonna come in here. We can do whatever we wanna do. In fact, a quickie doesn't even go up to 5 minutes. We can do anything. Like now, if you want us to book, we can book. And to worsen the matter, you know that, okay, these lecturers, they are friends, like there are 4 lecturers who were aspired. They are both your lecturers. So you start asking yourself, how many modules am I going to fail because of this? With my case, I was like, can I go and think about it? He was like, okay, here's my number. It's okay, you call me. You write your name down. Knowing that, okay, I'll go this target of mine. It's either she's going to go or she's going to fail. And then I had a 3, Chishiri, because of that. Imagine a Chishiri just because you couldn't give in. And there are certain students that I know they were in my group. But all of a sudden, they had their coursework mark. I say, you'll be asking yourself, okay, that's okay. That's what happened. So, you and the boys, you are suffering the same fate just because you didn't even give in. So if you are naive enough, or if you don't even know your rights, if you don't even know how to stand up for yourself, you fall into prey. Of which your marks over there, but just someone is just trying to manipulate. You are just a 1-1 student. And they'll tell you that, they'll have a meeting. The lecturers, they'll mark you. You repeat and repeat and repeat. So it's something that the girl child is facing, and we don't even know where to turn to. We don't even know who to tell. Because these guys, they know each other. They are friends. They've been working with each other for years. One time, when I was like, we often tell them that we are all adults here. How can you say someone who is 21 or 22 is being abused? We agree on these things before it happens. Am I agreeing on it? Or you're manipulating me, or you're threatening me to do so? It's a question. So where do we turn to? What do we tell? If you go to the nearest police station, they'll say, MSU students, we know mrima uri, I mean. So just because of these stereotypes, this discrimination, and these labels, we should just accept abuse as it is. We go for PIFO, we don't report, we get sick, we have these unwanted pregnancies, we've got these abortions, backyard abortions. But why? Because we don't even know who to tell.
It all starts still normal. Chingoti ndisiye varungotaura newe. Then ungozoti, can I see you? Are you free tonight? Maybe we can hang out. Ukaramba manje. From my case, ndakaramba. And he was giving me all the attitude lecturer. Ini night says you're not tension iri kubva papi. But vanhu havazonzwisisi kuti ko nei munombonetsana papi nanaseva kweva what's happening izvo ndakatoramba. So from there tikazatongoti tension from that. And the sad part is now that person is my supervisor for attachment, right? If I send him messages even now kuti say tikufamba sei pa-attachment, whatsapp, he doesn't reply, anongoplutika. Assessment yedu tikuitwa rini, or pane here zvikudiwa kuchikoro, assessment iri UN, what are we supposed to do, munoya rini, he doesn't reply, he just blutiks. Yes, unotozoona information yacho yatosendwa mugroup rechikoro kuti zvazonzi tikudai, but he is my supervisor. Andikwanisa kuvabvunza anything academic akarespond. Antoblutika. If I call, he doesn't pick up my calls, yet he's my supervisor. So I mean
During the course of your attachment, when you're about to end your attachment, you know that you and your supervisor were not in good terms. You have to compromise. You have to sleep with your supervisor for you to get those marks that will make sure that you pass your attachment. You don't have to repeat attachment. Then, boom, assessment comes. You know that, okay, your attachment supervisor and you are not in good terms. You have to give in again. You have to sleep with that supervisor for you to make it. And also you go for your final year. Dissertation is not a child play. You have to work for your dissertation. Someone just say, look for another dissertation topic. This cannot do. They'll allow you to write. You read chapter 3. They'll say, okay, go back to chapter 1. Redo, restart. You see a girl child. Akutopinda mazviri ndakutozoti okay, I'll offer sex, takutoriwa zviitika kuti zvinhu zvifambe.
So you're not even okay. You're left with no options. That's why it's really so normal for students. You have to set them as supervisors, lecturer, because it's not like you have a choice. Even if you take up the issue, but issues akadaro usually anyatsotoke serious because ungochonza aivasikana magara munoda zvinhu, what do you expect, mawangongapfeka sei, what not. So it's like you really don't have anyone to unokwanisa kuudza, and that person can stand up for that and make it a case or make it something chinokwanisa kuzochinja that. So munotongokondinya makadaro.
Okay, like izvezvi people be like wapiwa supervisor Mr. Kwatombonenza unongomuratidza zvaunazvo, like your body you give him. So even no matter how much you read, dinki hauri wani kana usinorara naye.
The Registrar of Students, Mr. Tinashe Zishiri, although refusing to speak on camera, called for a meeting with top college staff, including the proctor, Mr. Isao Mandipa, the Dean of Students, Mrs. Fadzai Christine Chakauya, Dean in the Faculty of Social Sciences, Professor Hungwe, their legal officer, Mr. Mafa, and the Assistant Registrar, Mrs. Monande, met with reporters investigating the allegations. The proctor, who is also head of the University Disciplinary Committee, admitted sextortion was happening at the university as he was dealing with 2 cases where lecturers were accused of failing 2 students their dissertations because they had refused to grant sexual favors in return for graduation. He, however, refused to name the 2. Students are unhappy because they think the college protects its own and makes it difficult for those who have the nerve to blow the whistle.
I think hapana seriousness on those issues because vanhu vese vanongori that assumption yekuti vasikana zvagara ndo zvamuri, vasikana vanoda kutongonyengwa. So kuti ndozovanatsanangura zvechokwadi, inini handina ma-intentions or I didn't make any moves. Zvinonetsa, it's not hatogwe serious. Maybe nyaya yangatorosere nebhotozorepewa, maybe.
The students themselves, those student leaders, they are coming down kwauri kuti ABCD zvofana kutoitika ndionewo shamwari kundiende. So then they go ku student affairs kwacho ndiko kuti une vanhu vatinotoziva kuti vanotoda zvinhu like unotonzi kuenda kwadho even chida rezi unozoti kana watopererwa nerezi enda kwadho ndongoziva shamwari it's okay ndakuwanira rezi muwadzanai kwadzanai munogara ma2 ma11 unogara pia rumu yako wega ndogara ndiri ndega pacampus anenge achitouyawo ikoko ari kutobhadhara rezi yaakakupa. So hakuna yokuti a proper channel to turn up to hakutorina because you turn up to the student minister of gender affairs unosvika utonzi haana chaanokwanisa kuita because iyewo kuti apindewo muchigaro chake imomomo akatotopay for. So hakuna ingori kunzi itawo iri kuitika, that's how we survive. So it's survival of the prettiest and the sexiest.
The sextortion has spread from college, with students being exposed to sexual harassment as they look for work-related learning in the corporate sector. In 2019, at the Gender Commission, Lorraine Kuyimba was allegedly sexually abused by the then Vice Chairperson, Paul Kutsima. The matter was dealt with in hushed tones and justice was never served.
I've worked with UN Women. So UN Women was particularly working with Zimbabwe Gender Commission and funding some programs. So that's where I was placed, and I was working in the Legal and Investigations Department as a legal intern there. And I was called to the office here, VC. There was a time and the other time he even insisted on buying food for me in Ndigaramba a couple of times. There are a couple of times that I ndingatenge chikafu nechangu as well Ndigaramba. Not to say that there are times I didn't get the food, but there are times I did. And then the other time he even went to the farm. I think there were peaches or something like that, but don't let anyone know. Ndikatora mapeaches ndikaenda nawo office, and I gave people I was sharing the office with. So it was just those kind of instances. So then the VC called. He called me into his office, and the PA picked up. Bajanzi, please ask Lorraine to come in. So when I went in to his office, he had gotten up from his desk and he was walking kuya kusangana. And as I was walking in to Pataka Sangana, he hugged me and he kissed me. And I froze. Then I left. I took my things, I didn't speak to anyone. And when I was leaving the office, then he said, please don't report it as sexual harassment. That will be the end of my career. So when Dr. Kadzima hugged me and kissed me, I think I was in a state of shock. I was confused. I was disgusted. I actually cried when I left the office. And so when I left, I told my friend what had happened. And she's the one who then advised me, Kuti, why not speak to one of the people from UN Women, since we were kind of also reporting to UN Women. So that's when I spoke to who was more like my superior at that moment, Ainzi Maureen Sibanda. So that's when I told her. I told her on WhatsApp, and she asked me to write a formal email to make it like an actual complaint. So I wrote the email when I got home, and I sent it to her. But I was shaken. That's what I remember. I was shaken. I cried, and I think I didn't believe it for a bit, but it was just so confusing. Mrs. Virginia Mwanegwa called me, and then she asked me to come to the office. So I went, and I remember going to the office. I had a massive panic attack as I was by the stairs, because this environment all of a sudden was not safe for me. Trying by all means to hide so that Dr. Kadzima would not see me at that time. I didn't want to see him. She said that it was not the first time that she was hearing of these allegations about the VC, Dr. Kadzima, same person. And the other times that she had heard about it was more like just corridor rumors, nothing confirmed. And she said Kuti, she may have understood what I was going through because he's more like a father figure to the Gender Commission, and even for her, he was more like a father figure for her, someone she could go to and talk to as a father. That's how she would have related to him. And so after that conversation, well, she asked me to stay at the Gender Commission because she said it would break her heart knowing that it's always, as the woman who's affected, it's always the woman who has to move, who has to up and leave, and the guy is the one who stays. But she was going to try by all means to make sure something was done, whilst I thought about staying at the Zimbabwe Gender Commission at that time. I decided not to stay because I did not feel safe. So we were told that investigations were going to be launched. Then nothing happened. And then when I tried to follow up, I was told that they had said they were going to form, was it a committee or something like that, to start on the investigations, but nothing happened. I think even a year after, I sent an email to the CEO, Mrs. Mwanigwa, asking her, but I didn't get a response. UN Women was also saying, Kuti, if you could try to follow up with them. There was nothing.
Attempts to get comment from the commission were fruitless despite promises and appointments by the Zimbabwe Gender Commission Chief Executive Officer Virginia Mwanigwa. The students' representatives are up in arms and are unhappy, alleging that the system is working to protect predators.
So during my tenure so far, we really do receive a number of cases around sexual harassment. There are many things that happen at university. Usually people get busy. Some of these students are doing part-time jobs. So it becomes really difficult to actually balance day-to-day life with your education. So we have, most of the time, you have late submission going on, and some lecturers actually take advantage of this. And you know what they say is itase munu mukuru, when you want to get your late submissions marked so that you have coursework and you can actually get into the exam room. So these are really crucial cases. And the problem that we really have many times is that with some of the sexual harassment policies in different institutions, they require a lot of substantial evidence. So then it becomes really hard because sometimes what we only have is circumstantial evidence. We just have word of mouth. And, you know, time immemorial, we had resorted to making sure that students may actually record conversations whilst the lecturers are unaware. So we'd take these audios, videos, and charts and go to the disciplinary with them as evidence. But, you know, with how the legal arm of the Zimbabwean constitution is constantly changing, some of these things are becoming complicated to make use of. For example, we now have the Cyber Act that came in recently that does not allow you to record someone without their consent, right? But then the universities still want evidence, so it is failing to balance when it comes to that. We have had testimonials in confidence whereby some female students actually came forward and said, hey, this is how I put through the rest of my university. I was dating this lecturer time and again, and you know, you would pay me something, you would also make sure that my marks were appealing and everything. So yeah, that's another side of it. And you know, when these people come with their stories to tell you, you can't also go and report because they're telling you in confidence. Sometimes when they come to us or approach us sharing these stories because they have STI, they need assistance, or they need protection, they want contraception and everything. So, you know, you then have to look at it from a neutral point of view, whereby you give them what they've asked for. If they just wanted somebody to lean on or somebody to hear them out, then that's just what you have to give out to them. Do not remain silent. Make use of the resources that are most immediate to you. Voice out, speak out before it gets worse, and also whilst we can still speak for you.
Transparency International Zimbabwe has raised concerns over the lack of a legal framework in Zimbabwe that can make predators to account.
So what we have been finding out from our work as Transparency International is that victims of sextortion, they have many challenges when it comes to, one, reporting the cases, and also even in terms of bringing forward the evidence for prosecution. And the legal framework that we have in Zimbabwe is not adequate enough to cover such victims or to address the challenges that comes with sextortion. We've also come to realize that even in tertiary institutions in the private sector and the public sector at large, sextortion, or sex rather, is being used as a form of specialized currency in order to have services or to bribe through your way. So as TIZ, our main concern really is to have a legal framework that addresses the challenges, that enables even our courts to prosecute, and also that makes it, should I say, easier for acceptance of evidence that is brought about by the victims of sextortion, because the issue of gathering evidence really is one of the biggest challenges, because it appears like your word against mine, and for some it may even take time for them to come out. And we also want the state to strengthen our institutions such as the Gender Commission, even the Parliament and our judiciary, for the cases and reports of sextortion to be fully addressed. So our role is Transparency International Zimbabwe. How we have been working so far, we've been working with the communities, educating them about sextortion, what does it entail as a form of corruption. We've also been working with quite a number of civil society, women's rights organizations, to capacitate them with information on how to mainstream corruption in the form of sextortion in their everyday work. We've also been engaging even with state institutions in their different forms, including even the police, to capacitate their officers on information around it, the challenges that the communities are facing, and discussing around the gaps and how best they can be addressed. We have also been working even with our legislatures, the Parliament itself. So we will continue to lobby and advocate for having legal frameworks that address challenges that come with sextortion as a form of corruption.
Parliament of Zimbabwe last year received a petition as these allegations continue to rock learning institutions. They embarked on their own fact-finding mission, produced a report which has now been tabled in Parliament. Legislator Shakespeare Hamauswa says the situation is appalling and something needs to be done fast.
Those issues are rampant, and also what we discovered as a committee when we went around following a petition that was submitted to Parliament, the petitioners were calling upon the government to enact a law that will criminalize sexual harassment, and also putting in place measures to make tertiary institutions safe for students, especially for the female students. And indeed, they also said there are reports that were done and which indicated that about 97% of female students who participated in that research indicated that they had faced some form of sexual harassment. And there are also cases even at University of Zimbabwe where some lecturers were called for disciplinary action because they were involved in sexual harassment. Some were actually dismissed. And when we went around as a committee, at NAST, university students actually came out open, saying that they are encountering issues to do with sexual harassment. The report that was produced is actually recommending for the enactment of that law, and also the chairperson for Higher and Tertiary Education Committee, Honorable Lindiwe Maposa, also called upon the government to enact that law in line with what was demanded by the petitioners, and also what we discovered at the tertiary institutions, that there is no comprehensive law, comprehensive policies that actually protect students from sexual harassment.
High levels of poverty have actually forced many young women into selling sex as a form of bribery to get ahead in life. According to a study by Transparency International Zimbabwe titled Gender and Corruption in Zimbabwe, sextortion, which has become rampant in society, happens owing to unequal power relations between women and men. The TIZ study shows sextortion is not only happening in colleges and universities, but also in business circles. Open quote. At times you get asked for sexual favors in return for tenders or business. What makes the situation difficult, especially for state contracts, is how women in business are perceived by men in control of these processes. When they see a woman, for most of them, sex is the first thing that comes to their mind. Hence, women are sexualized and seen as sexpreneurs rather than entrepreneurs. Close quote. Lady Gomera.